All right, great. You are in treat. We have two majors, not only one. Communication and journalism and public interest is our second major. So with this, let me invite Erica Sampson, who is the Director of Academic Services in the Department of Communication, who is also happened to be an alumni of Communication Department. And may I add that the whole department depends on Erica to run smoothly. Right? There are so many occasions at midnight or very early in the morning, we send email. Erica get it done in 2 minutes, especially with your enrollments. So let us welcome Erica Sampson.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the very kind introduction, Anise. I just wanted to say I was looking at this and thinking, what would I answer? And Troy and I both said we're under none specified because we're both alums of the Department of Communication, but we work in higher ed, and that's not on this list. So we hope that this panel today really shows all of you how versatile communication can be, and it's not stuck in this small box of 4 or 5 things. As you can see, that list was so many, and it expands even more than that. But again, my name is Erica Sampson. I'm the Director of Academic Services here in the Department of Communication, and I'm also an alum of the Communication major. I graduated in 2013, and I have been with the department in academic services for 11 years. So have definitely seen the ins and outs of being a student and an alum with communication. So with that said, I wanted to share information about our 2 majors, as well as the different admissions requirements that you will need to know if you are interested in applying to COM or JPIC. So our first major is, as you can tell, communication. That is the larger of the 2 majors. We have about 500 students in that major right now. We just got our last cycle of applicants for fall admission, and we're reviewing those right now. Hopefully we can bring that number up to about 600 this next quarter. The second major is our journalism and public interest communication major. Tiana, who is an alum of the JPIC program, will get more into it throughout our panel, but it's not just a journalism program. The public interest communication program, a portion of the program goes more into things like public service, nonprofit work, even public relations. The prerequisites required to be eligible to apply to both COM and JPIC are 2.5. So that includes your cumulative GPA, your COM GPA, COM 200 grade, and for COM applicants, that second COM 200 level class, so 2.5 across the board. Let's see. And then the affiliated courses list. So we understand that the communication major bleeds into all aspects of studies on campus, whether it be other social sciences, humanities, arts, even other programs like engineering. But we do understand that other departments offer communication-related courses. So we do allow COM majors to take up to 10 credits from our approved affiliated courses list. That is not required by any means. You can take all of your COM classes within the Department of Communication. But let's say you're a double major in anthropology, and you see a class on that list that counts towards both majors. We say, go ahead, take it. If you're within that 10 allowed affiliated credits approval, you're good to go. And then, let's see, when can applicants submit their COM or JPIC application? We allow, our application cycles are the first week of autumn, winter, and spring quarters, so 3 times a year. The application is open for 1 week, and then we let students know of their major decision by the end of the 5th week of the quarter. If you have any questions regarding advising or admissions into either of those majors, please feel free to speak with Troy or I after the panel, or make an appointment on our website, send an email to our general advising email address. That's all on our website, so I'm not going to just bombard you with a bunch of email addresses, but we're happy to chat with you. Doesn't matter if you're a pre-major or already in another major, we would love to speak with you. Yeah, so we're going to show you a video of one of our programs that are only offered to common JPIC majors, and that's Career Kickstart. Thank you. So as you can see from that video, we've had the privilege in the department to provide various opportunities and resources for our students. I'm going to highlight a couple. One is equipment checkout, right? If you're working within media, or honestly, if you just want to learn how to work a camera, you have the opportunity to rent out various equipments from the department to gain those skills, right? And I think that's an awesome way for you to build your portfolio and to be able to put that on your resume, right? And the other item would be our career exploration trips. Usually every year, we try and take students to either New York, LA, DC, and around Seattle. It's a scholarship opportunity for students to get almost all of the travel fees covered as well. And we meet with alums and other communication professionals around the areas. So it's also a great way for you to build those connections and network. As an example, I remember taking students to see I don't remember if it's the Rams or the Chargers. They're in the same stadium and their logos are similar. Clearly, I'm not a football girly. It was the Rams. Anyway, we met an alum there, and one of our students really wanted to work in sports communication. They got to talking, and he ended up getting hired for an internship 1 quarter later because of that connection through the career exploration trip. So, don't think that, I'm just one of 500-600 students who's going to pick me. Take advantage, and not just in comm, right? Take advantage of all the opportunities that UW has in store for you, because they want you to take advantage of them. They want you to build on those opportunities and meet with the alums. So if you end up being a comm or JPIC major, I expect to see your career exploration application. All right, without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Troy Bonas, who is the Senior Academic Advisor in the Department of Communication and also a 2014 alum.
Thanks, Erica. Can you guys hear me with this mic? Let me take this one too.
I turned it off.
I'll use them both. Okay. How about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, right on. Okay, thanks for letting me crash your class. Thanks, Anise. Nice to see everybody. Have I met any of you yet? There's got to be some. Okay, yeah, good. My coworker raised her hand. So, like Erica said, I'm also an alum of the department and one of the 2 advisors for undergraduate students here in the department. I graduated back in 2014. I was a transfer student. Went to some community colleges before I came here. We got any transfer students out there? Okay, good. Those are my people. So I'm here to introduce and talk to your panel today to tell you a little bit about some of the ways that you can use a communication or a JPIC major or a graduate degree to do communications kind of related work. But just real quick, I'll kind of give you my 2-minute thing. So I came to UW as a transfer student because I was interested in political communication. That's what I wanted to study. I took Introduction to Communication in this class, and I'd sit front and center. My very first class at UW was in this room, and I was like, I don't really know exactly how communication as a field of study is going to shake out for me in terms of jobs, but political communication is what I'm interested in. We'll see how that works. Did an internship spring quarter of my final year that was kind of political, comm related, that turned into my first job post-graduation. Did that for a little while, realized I was just missing UW, so kind of figured out how to get back here, and was also missing working with students. I'd done some education-related work before I was a student at UW myself, so came back here, have been doing this now for 10 years, meet with students every day, prospective communication majors, JPIC majors, soon-to-be graduates, alumni, help lead some of the career exploration trips that we do. So I'm totally happy to meet with any of you anytime. Go to our department website. You can schedule an appointment with me or the other communication advisor. If you're just like slightly curious about comm or JPIC, come talk to me. Or Erica. Yeah, cool. Okay. Let me just kind of like throw out this open-ended chance for our panel now to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their career pathways and how they got where they are today, and just to tell us like who they are.
Yeah, I'm happy to start first. Well, first off, thank you so much, Dr. Rahman, Troy, and Erica, who was my advisor when I was in the journalism program, for having me today. I'm so grateful to be sharing this space with all of you. But to take you back to kind of the beginning of my journey, as I was preparing for this conversation today, I had to put my mindset into that of my freshman self. And I remember taking this class my spring quarter of my freshman year. I had actually come to the UW as a pre-med student, and so I was, as many of you are, still trying to figure out what major I actually wanted to pursue and really where my interests lie. But I'll take you back actually before I even got to UW. So I had actually been denied from UW my senior year of high school, and I appealed my admission to get into university. So I had applied to the Seattle campus. UW was my dream school, and when I received a rejection letter, I really had no other backup plan. So I advise folks, if you don't have backup schools, always a good idea to have those, but it did work out for me, so I did appeal my admission, and I didn't realize at the time that that was going to really set the tone for what my university experience would be like. I'm a first-generation college graduate, so I earned my BA in journalism from this campus here in the program. And yeah, just like my freshman year, I really confronted so many different barriers that I had no idea how to navigate this huge university. I'm from Olympia, Washington, so smaller town. So like coming to Seattle, huge culture shock for me. I was actually admitted into the university as a part of the Educational Opportunity Program, which is an amazing, EOP scholars, amazing program. Some of you might be in it. But I was a part of that program that supported low income, first generation, and students of color. And that really provided me a robust support network here on the campus. And I started really just exploring where my interests lied after my freshman fall quarter, completely changed my major. Did a 360. My family was kind of questioning that decision, thinking I wanted to go to med school. And then suddenly I wanted to go into journalism. But once I did start down that path, really my world opened up. I actually got my first internship with Sports Illustrated, so I covered Husky football recruiting my junior year, and then I just kind of remained steadfast on that track. And after that, I started to realize that I really wanted to uplift stories of marginalized communities like myself. Coming from a predominantly white town here to predominantly white university, I wanted to have the opportunity to share authentic narratives of folks that don't often get the platform to do that. And so shortly after I graduated, I pivoted into more local storytelling here in the Pacific Northwest, covering nonprofits, small businesses, community events, and Black culture. And then I launched my podcast just a couple of years ago with one of my longtime friends of 10 years and colleague, Identity Unboxed, where I provide mentorship and promote representation for Black professionals. So we interview experts across various fields. So Black professionals, leaders, and scholars. We've had professional athletes on, nonprofit executives, doctors, journalists, so many different folks. And so if you are interested to get some career advice from exceptional people, highly recommend you tune into that. But my current job right now, I actually work at the Continuum College. I ended up back at UW shortly after I graduated, just a year later. And I've always had a passion for higher education, increasing access to those that have been historically excluded from spaces like this. And what prompted me to kind of pivot from journalism into my full-time job at the Continuum College in operations is that I wanted to kind of be the conduit for folks that have not really seen what their pathway could look like, especially when they don't have that representation. And so for me, that's kind of who I want to be for folks, and to connect those students to those resources and opportunities. And then lastly, I'm a part of the professional staff organization. I'm the president of that board, and I advocate for professional staff across the UW-Tacoma, Seattle, and Bothell campuses. So it supports about 12,000 staff. It's been quite an arduous journey the past year. I'd never been on a board before, and I had been on the board for about a year before I decided to move into the leadership position. And folks on the committee were encouraging me to go for that opportunity, and so I decided to. But that's a little bit about me. I know that was much longer than I anticipated, but we will get further into it as we go on.
That works now? Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Amanda Nguyen Axton. I graduated from the University of Washington from the Communication Department in 2012. Feels like that's dating me quite a bit. And I majored in comms, minored in LSJ, thought I was going to go into public affairs, but I actually got a job right after college at Alumni, which is a global public relations firm, and I spent the majority of my career there. So I was there for about 8.5 years. I got to wear a bunch of different hats, from account management, social strategy, influencer marketing, and integrated marketing. So, had really great experience there, got to work on some great global clients. Some of my favorites included REI, Starbucks, Samsung Mobile, Microsoft, even Weight Watchers. We did a big campaign with them, and some local clients too. So Puget Sound Energy and Valley Village. And fun fact, one of my favorite projects that we worked on when I was on the Valley Village account, I got to staff and be on set for the Macklemore thrift shop video. So that was super cool. Got to meet him in person. It was a little highlight. So yeah, I was there for about 8.5 years, loved it, decided that I actually had a knack for numbers. And so I went and got my MBA at Seattle University, focused in organizational change and business analytics. And during that time, I made the transition to Microsoft in 2019. And my first role there was go-to-market for commercial partner investments and incentives. Kind of on the boring side compared to my previous role at Edelman, but I learned a lot. I got to dabble in actually building financial models for our commercial partners at Microsoft. And I did that for about almost 2 years, and I decided I needed to go back to my roots. I had missed working in communications. That's truly my bread and butter. So I found myself after that role leading executive and corporate communications for an 8,000 person org at Microsoft, filled of technical consultants, architects, and engineers. And I did that for about 3 years. And that's a fancy way of saying I was in charge of leading executive communications for one of the corporate vice presidents, all of our announcements, speaking engagements, a lot of speech writing, organizational change announcements. So think of restructurings and layoffs and organizational wide announcements and updates. Did that for about 3.5 years. And then I went on maternity leave, came back in December, and I found myself in a new role. So I'm right now a director of AI activation, as that says. I've been in the role since December. It's a fancy way of saying that I am working on skilling and training a lot of our architects and consultants on Microsoft Copilot and all the AI technology solutions out there. So lots of uses of internal communication, if you will, some program management skills, and content development. So that's where I am now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Quigtar. I graduated from the master's program Com Lead, Communication Leadership, in 2021. I did my bachelor's at the University of Miami in Florida and finished in 2012. From here, born and raised in Skyway, just south of Seattle. I think for me, a lot of how I got to where I am and my career pathway is really built around my neighborhood. Where I grew up, there isn't a whole lot, and it hasn't changed since I've lived there. I'm 35 now, so sidewalks, street lights, new buildings, new businesses, a lot hasn't changed, and it's to the detriment of my neighborhood. And as I went through college, even starting in undergrad, I wanted to figure out a way how I can help my neighborhood. What was the things that interest me? What could I apply, the skills that I know, to help? And so in undergrad, I majored in business. And for my senior project, I wrote a business plan to build a community center in my neighborhood. Fast forward, I started grad school in 2018. And at that same year, I took on my current position as the executive director of a nonprofit, the Renton Innovation Zone Partnership, and balancing grad school and a new job, albeit an executive director, I do not recommend to anybody, but it was probably one of the best challenges I put myself through. I'm still in that job now, 6.5 years later. It's my first leadership role, and I've learned a lot, through the different challenges of hiring, firing staff, managing multi-million-dollar budgets, so on and so forth. But I think through all of those things, I've still, kept my neighborhood at the center of what I want to do, and how I want to show up every day to a job, and figure out how I can impact, the people that I love and the people I see every day. So I think one of the accomplishments that didn't see coming, but, the positive energy and karma that you put into the world and what you focus on, it came back around for me in 2021. So my organization, we stepped up and did a ton of things that we were not created to do during the pandemic, supporting our neighborhoods. The biggest thing was we worked with U.S. Bank to donate a former bank branch, and now that is as of, it's April now, so next month will be the grand opening of a resource center in our neighborhood. So the building donation, announcing that to the community, doing a whole community design process, managing so many different partners. I think all of those things, it's been a really cool way to see where, sometimes there's doubt. Sometimes there's things where your head's down, you're in the day-to-day, and you're like, am I doing something that's meaningful? And then all of a sudden, there's these opportunities that come that validate what you're doing, and validate you did make the right decision. So I'm glad that happened for me, because I don't think I'd be in this job right now still, to be really honest with you. But yeah, I think a lot of what I do just comes from my lived experience. The other story I want to just share quickly is, so I graduated 2021 and from the master's program. That was the first time ever. My mom was born and raised here. That was the first time she ever set foot on UW's campus, was me taking graduation photos. And I didn't know that until we were walking around campus. Campus is really big, and we're like, where do you want to go next, Mom? She's like, I don't know. I've never been here. And at that moment, it was shock, but it was also, just the understanding all the things that she did to help me get to where I am. So definitely grateful for my parents. Definitely have to mention them because they're a huge reason, why I am where I am.
That's awesome. An impressive panel, you guys. Thank you. Hopefully you guys get a sense for the broad range of different professional and personal applications for communication, JPIC, Communication Leadership Program. That's just really inspiring, all really great work. Cool. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you some open-ended questions, and we'll just kind of go down the line. And if you could each answer the question and then just pass it down, that'd be great. So first, what are some things you learned while you were a student in the department? And what are some things you learned only after you entered the workforce? Open-ended, take it as you will. We'll start with Tiana. Actually, Ryan, you got the mic. We'll start down there. Yeah.
There we go. I took some notes here. I think during comm lead, so there was a gap in between when I finished undergrad and then started grad school. And actually the year before I started grad school, I was working, it was brand new at the time, but the eco major in the School of Education. I was part of the staff and was managing the internship program for the seniors. And what I realized working there and then getting into comm lead is the brand, the presence, the reputation that UW has in the community is second to none. When you speak UW's name in all types of spaces, there's a certain respect that's given. There's also an expectation there for you yourselves representing UW as students. But I think it helped me to say, how do I leverage UW's presence? How do I leverage my time right now as a grad student saying, I am a grad student at UW or I am an undergrad student at UW to advance myself professionally and also just expand my social networks. I think those kind of things, it was really eye-opening to me to kind of see the impact that it's already had on different communities and different spaces and how that even opened up some additional doors for myself. I think the second thing is everyone is here to study or research something. Everyone is here doing that. And if they're not already an expert, they soon will be. So I think for me, what I found on that is anybody you talk to here on this campus is going to know something very specific about something, right? It could be completely different from your major. It could be something you've never even heard of, but they're going to know the exact science of it. They're going to know to a T the origins of it or so on and so forth. And I share that because you never know when that something might come up for you. You might say, oh, man, yeah, I had that conversation with that person in the cafe, and we would chat up every time we were studying at the same time. Let me reach out to them now because I'm actually on this paper, and that would be a cool topic to explore. Those things happen organically, so just encourage you to talk to a stranger, honestly. There's, 30,000 people here, 25,000, more than that? 45? You're probably somebody you walk past in Red Square today you'll never see again. Think about that. You'll never see them again your whole time here. So it really is an interesting thing to think about when that person is studying something you never even thought of was a major here even, right? But it's something of interest that could come up at a different time. So just another way to encourage you to expand your social networks, and explore things that are completely opposite from what you know.
That's a really good point about social networking and building your network. I remembered Dean Gerald Baldesty used to teach a career development course here. And I remember he taught this whole piece around preparing for an interview and how to build a network. And so those were the two key things that I took away when I was a student here. I also will say something that I learned when I was at UW was how to write well. Do not sleep on those writing courses. APA citations and AP writing style is super important. And I'm not just saying that just to, go rah-rah with Dr. Rahman here. Like, for reals, that is so important, especially when you graduate, to write with clarity and with brevity. My husband works at Amazon, and he starts every meeting, every big review with a big essay, if you will, with proper citations. And if you do not write well, you get written down by your manager. So again, do not sleep on those writing courses. That's a great key takeaway that I took from UW. Things that I learned when I entered the workforce. Here in your undergrad, you learn a lot of technical skills, right? Your writing, theory, how to apply, different models, that sort of thing. When I entered the workforce, I learned the importance of soft skills, the things that you learn when you get a little bit more experience, under your belt. So managing up on, a boss, having difficult conversations with your peers, client management. What is that even about? Being able to actively listen and engage and ask questions and think on the spot while presenting in a pitch and be able to pivot at the same time. So those are things that, takes time, but I feel like were pretty key, to what I learned, early in my career.
That's all really great. I echo everything you both said, particularly when it comes to not only networking, but I would say building community. That was what I really found to be very valuable once I left UW. But I'll give you just a few strategies on how I did that. You really have to get out of your comfort zone and get involved in activities that you feel are making a positive impact, even outside of your major. I know for me, I was encouraged to get involved with the Dean Student Advisory Council. Just shortly after my sophomore year, I just got accepted into the journalism major, and I'd always kind of had an interest in policy, and I thought, why not? I should apply to this. And I didn't really think I was going to get accepted. It seemed like it was pretty competitive, but I ended up getting accepted to be on this council to serve the dean in the College of Arts and Sciences and advance policy at large on the campus with other students and graduate students as well. And I think that experience really opened up my world when it came to understanding the professional skills that you need to be successful, particularly for early career professionals. And I was interacting and working with, executive leadership on the campus, figuring out ways to increase accessibility for students, again, that have been excluded from the campus, but also figuring out ways to decrease those barriers for those students and incorporating lived experiences of folks that haven't always been welcomed into those rooms. I know I was the only Black student on that council my entire time there. It may have gotten more diverse, but I just implore you all to kind of look for those opportunities, even if you think that you're not qualified for it. And imposter syndrome is definitely something that I encountered. And the way I overcame that was understanding that when you're in a system that wasn't designed for you, you're going to feel like you don't have the resources that you need to thrive, and it's going to take a little bit of extra effort to find out what those resources are. And so when we're hearing these amazing stories about looking into what is available on campus, reaching out to folks like Troy and Erica, I really do highly encourage you folks to do that, because that's not something that I felt I took advantage of as much as I could have now that I'm in the workforce. But yeah, I would say if you have something that you're continuing to go back to that you're finding is really interesting or engaging for you, and you have an idea about what your path looks like, to just be open and have just an open mind about what it means to build your own path, because it will be unique. But for me, I would say pivoting out of UW, I decided to work in corporate for a little bit. So I was a social media coordinator in the private sector. Did not find that fulfilling at all. And that was what actually prompted me to be more introspective and find out where my passion really lied. And again, I wanted to make a tangible impact in the community, get involved in community engagement type of work, and shortly ended up in recruiting. So I pivoted and worked for a tech company for a short time, and then I was laid off. So I was actually kind of forced to listen to my inner voice. So some of you all may have the subconscious telling you what you really love, and you're not listening to it. But listen to that voice, because that's what really allowed me to receive all these opportunities that I have. And now that I ended up at the University of Washington, I've continued to meet so many folks that have supported me in my career, even though I just graduated in 2021. It's been a short time. But I found that I've been more fulfilled in what I'm currently doing, particularly with my podcast, and kind of being that person that I needed when I was younger, because I didn't have folks that looked like me that I could reach out to for advice, didn't have really many people around me that I grew up with that could show me what it's like to go to college and figure out what your path is. And so I think it was very convoluted as I left the UW, but my advice would be lean on community, build community. It takes work. Reach out to someone new. get involved in the registered student organizations if you haven't done that this year. I know it's your freshman year. But find something fun to meet new people and just connect.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. I think that you guys are all ready for a career in advising as well, right? Like, there's some really good stuff that they gave you there. I mean, I heard, a focus on community, right? And like recognizing the people that you meet here are going to be, some of them are going to be important people later in your life, personally and or professionally. I heard like listening to that inner voice that tells you what's important to you. That's incredible. That's all good stuff. Focus on your writing, and that's coming from somebody who works with AI skills right now, and AI tools, right? Like, if somebody who works for Microsoft with AI is telling you to focus on your writing, they might be giving you good advice, like ChatGPT can't get you the job every time, right? Okay, next question for you guys then. And some of you touched on this a little bit already, but what were some of the important or meaningful things you did as a student other than simply going to class? Any kind of extracurricular activities, jobs, internships, anything else that had an impact on who you are now or where you are now?
Before I actually only answered half of the first question. That was on me. So I want to go back to the after. I forgot the after. That's on me. That's my bad. It's just one thing. Everything that they shared, and with the storytelling, what I've learned and what I've seen is when you make someone feel, they will tell the story for you. Whether you're putting on a one-time event, a reoccurring event, a program that is over the course of a couple months or weeks with a curriculum, if you make them feel a certain way, they're going to speak that for you. Good or bad. So if they have a bad experience, they're absolutely going to tell other people they had a bad experience. But if they have a really good experience, what I found in my work is they actually bring more people along with them the next time. One of the things that we actually started to track in terms of some of the data we collect was how other people, first-timers, found out about our event. And the most common way was a family, friend, or neighbor. It wasn't our email marketing. It wasn't our social media. It wasn't flyers in the neighborhood. It was because someone else had a positive experience, and they told their neighbor or their family or their friends, say, hey, I had a positive experience. You need to come too. You can benefit from this. So evoking that feeling, whatever that feeling needs to be, of safety, of trust, of fun, of laughing, of family, that's going to go farther than anything else to help other people tell the story that you want to tell. Second question, sorry. Extracurricular activities. So for grad school, I am the founder of the ComLead Consultancy. So that was something that came up during the pandemic. And essentially, everything shut down, as we all know, March of 2020. And businesses closed. Small mom and pop businesses closed, everybody. And they had to figure out quickly how to communicate online. That was the only real means of communication. For all these businesses, small businesses who didn't have any social media, had to create a way to say, we are still open. Now we're on Uber Eats. Now we're on, all these other places. Or here are new hours. That was something that we take for granted as people who might be familiar with electronics, familiar with social media, that a lot of people don't know. And so it was just a quick way to figure out how can we, as grad students in the communication field, support small businesses and nonprofits to deliver on their strategies electronically, virtually. And that's how it started. And so I think this kind of also answers number one, the during. UW, in my experience, supports students wholly. This would not have happened without the support of the entire ComLead leadership. If they didn't say, yes, we'll do this, there would be no ComLead consultancy. and the turnaround time from the idea, from the day I sent the email to the time we had a team of 5 to 6 students planning and strategizing and designing what this consultancy is going to be, maybe 5 weeks from that time period, and we got paid. So, for UW leadership in my program to say yes to all of those things, that just doesn't happen all the time. So I think the Comedy Consultancy is grown. In our first probably 6 months, 4 to 6 months, we served over 100 clients. That's probably doubled or tripled now. And what I hear, I'm not involved anymore. I'm starting to get back involved with the consultancy. And I honestly don't like to talk about it a lot. I'm a super humble person. I don't like to mention these kind of things, but it's relevant. This is for some people the reason students applied to ComLead, and to me that means more than anything. And I never thought that would be a reason someone applied was because of an idea I had. So it's really cool to feel that. To the imposter syndrome, a point that you brought up, it kind of challenges that feeling that I had before of that, because I never would have thought me feeling imposter syndrome, I would have created something that makes people from around the world. There was a student I met who is from Jamaica and applied to UW and came here specifically because they also wanted to be part of the consultancy. I never would have thought that in my wildest dreams, that I would reach those kind of people, people around the world. So it's really cool. If you stay in comm, please also look at ComLead. The program is amazing. There's an event tomorrow. There's an event next Friday. Look it up on Eventbrite. But yeah, it's an awesome program. But the Comedy Consultancy is, I think, a really good place too for you to hone your skills and work with different clients in a safe space. You have the support of UW faculty and advisors. And yeah, I think that's probably one of the blessings of being in a university. You can take a lot of different healthy risks. You have folks with your advisors here who literally, you get paid to give advice, to answer your questions. You should absolutely, if you haven't already, make an appointment with both of them and ask them questions. I think it's just it's really cool how the structure of that is. But yeah, ComLead Consultancy has been my biggest thing.
I love that you started that, because any type of experience is so important. I can't say that enough. Just get any experience, whether it's volunteering, joining a consultancy, finding a side hobby, being able to apply those skills. And especially when you're an undergrad, as you said, there's very low risk, right? You fail, that's okay. You're still in school. Nothing got hurt. So that's, again, getting that great experience is awesome. When I was an undergrad, I got a bunch of experience too with internships. I started out with an internship my freshman year doing social media for a startup company. That was when Twitter was new. Yes, I am dating myself. There was no Instagram, but yes, we started out with that. And then I got an internship every year after that, even during the school year. Just wanted to see, is this the right path that I wanted to do? Did this major make sense for me? Did I like what I was doing? Is this what the real world was going to be like? Just to, get my feet wet and see what's out there. I also joined UW PRSSA. I don't know if that's still here today. It is? Okay, awesome. If you do not know what that means, it is Public Relations Student Society of America. And I had a fantastic time doing that. I did that all 4 years, was an officer for one of that, got to go to a big conference, got to meet other PRSSA officers, great networking. If you are interested in a PR track, they really help you hone your skills in terms of understanding how to pitch media, build media relationships, that sort of thing. I also was really active in my sorority. I was part of Greek life, and I think that was very helpful in terms of networking with alumni. And that's actually how I got my first job at Edelman. One of my former sorority sisters, she was 20 years senior to me, was very senior at Edelman, was willing to have a coffee. Next thing I know, when I applied for that internship, she helped me get my resume at the top of the pile. And I hate to say it, not to be discouragement, but the job market is really rough right now. I was filling a position about a month ago, And the job posting I put up with the recruiter was up for maybe 5 days, and I had 800 applicants. And I'm not saying that, it was diamond in the roughs in terms of finding great candidates. In that pool of 800 applicants, more than 50% were very qualified, more so from different competitors because of all the other layoffs that have been happening in the tech world. So, it really is important for you to think about how you network, how you position yourself, and finding opportunities to, get your resume at the top of that pile. Yeah.
That's thank you so much for that great advice. And I'm going to be a little bit candid here. I know many of you are still adjusting to living in Seattle, and there's an exorbitant cost of living here. And I want to be frank with everyone that I had so many constraints I was navigating coming from a low-income background that I didn't even have much of the time or the luxury to be as engaged as I wanted to in many activities until probably COVID, because I had so much more free time to log on to class online. I didn't have to run around all the time, and I was working part-time as a barista. I had 2 internships at one point. I was freelance writing, also working another job. And so I had so many different responsibilities I was juggling, and I know that might be something that you all are experiencing, or some of you are experiencing in some capacity. And so I do just want to acknowledge that. A lot of people are going through hard times right now, and so you may not have the time to join the club because you have a night shift to work or you have a morning shift to work. But when you do have the time, try to make the connections, as these 2 folks were mentioning. And for me, that was really being on the Dean Student Advisory Council. I went in as a member, decided to run for the vice chair position, and then folks encouraged me to run for the chair position. Didn't see myself doing that. My schedule did get busier, but I will say, because during COVID, it was my junior year, that I had some more time to step into that role and feel like I could, make a tangible impact there. And I was able to help folks understand some of the financial constraints here for low-income students, and also help work with outreach and increase access to experiential learning opportunities, which I found were most valuable for me, because that's what's lended to the success in my current position now, are those experiential learning opportunities, and also increasing equity in the spaces that we're in. But yeah, for me, I would say my internships were probably something that have been the most helpful. And partly with my time at Sports Illustrated, I got a lot of really great hands-on work with reporting. I actually went into journalism thinking I wanted to go into broadcasting. I thought, to go into journalism, you're a reporter. And for all of you, that may be kind of your idea of what you envision journalism to be. But I would challenge you, for those interested in going into that area, to think about the transferable skills that you might gain from that. And that's what I was able to understand after working in digital and print reporting, that I really didn't want to do that full time. I didn't want to be on call, work 24/7, have to break a news story. I was experiencing that in my internships. But I will say, finding those internships, I don't think that's something we really touched on. I did not apply for those, through a cold application on LinkedIn or Handshake. Even though there's great resources here on campus for you to do that, it really was connections again. And so, I think that's something that I just want to point out for you all, that you can throw your applications out, but you might be in a pile of 800, like was touched on already. So, I would just say, try to really build meaningful connections with folks. Go out to coffee with them. Check in with people that you're meeting in class. If you're finding that you have similarities, why don't, you decide to ask them, to get together or to join a club or to look into what's available for you to continue your learning here on campus. But yeah, I think that's all I really have to share.
Wow, you guys really are going to put me out of an advising job. You're doing it all for me. Can I swear in here, Anise?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, so, I think that a lot of what you guys said boils down to something I tell students all the time, is just go do some shit, right? Like, in addition to your schoolwork, go do some shit. Like, join a club, be in a sorority, get a part-time job. Tiana, what you were saying totally resonates with me. When I was a student here, I couldn't pay rent unless I was working 30 hours a week. Don't sleep on the importance of what might sometimes feel like shitty part-time jobs. You bussing tables, or making coffee for somebody. You might not believe this now, but when you're applying for your first internship or first post-graduation job, that experience is professional experience. And that can set you apart from some of your peers who are here who have never had a job, right? Like have never had to show up, have responsibilities, shut down a shift, close out a till, all that stuff. Like that's responsibility. Some employers are going to be really interested to know that you've been doing that when you're applying for some of your first stuff. So thank you guys. I'm going to skip this last question because I want to make sure that we have some time for students to ask some questions. So you guys, I'll give you like 30 seconds while I stall for you to start thinking of some questions. And in those 30 seconds, well, I'll give you a minute. Erica, I know you did a bunch of stuff when you were a student here too. Will you tell us about some of that stuff?
May I also add that there is a poll I created for them to type their question if anyone prefers that. But you are also welcome to ask orally. We have a microphone, and Mercy will help to take the microphone to you if it is interpretive. But if it is a short question directed to any particular panelist, please state the name of the panelist and be brief. So it is activated. It is optional poll. I have 5 polls to give you participation point at the end of the all panels, and most of the answer to the polls has been already answered, but will help you to get the correct answers, okay? So here's activated. We'll visit that in 2 minutes, right? Okay.
Erica's going to tell us some of the things she did when she was a student.
I will rant for 2 minutes. I'm just kidding. I really appreciate all 3 of you talking about your experiences. It really just shows that when you walk across campus and you see someone going the opposite direction, you don't know what's going on in their life, right? I'm going to be completely real with my experiences. My mother had a stroke freshman year, and I was ready to be an RA, right? I was like, if this is the only way for me to move on to campus, because I was being a commuter, we couldn't afford me living on campus. I couldn't afford rent, right? I'll be an RA. And my mom had a stroke with that, and where it made me decide what's more important, right? Me living on campus or helping my father raise my little sister who's 8 years younger than me. Well, I think it's pretty clear what I decided to go with. I stayed at home for all 4 years while my father worked night shifts, and I helped raise my sister while my mom was in the hospital. I took up a part-time job. Again, there's something so real about doing the low-wage jobs, doing what some people might consider shitty work, right? I was a hostess at an Italian restaurant. I got a lot of free food because of it, and it was great because then I didn't have to pay for dinner. I applied to the most random internships. I was an intern at a casting agency. I was an intern in the Department of Communication, actually, as an events intern, and that's when I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing with a comm degree. I'm kind of floundering here because I'm just trying to survive, right? And so I applied to Como 4 as a sales intern, and every single time I was in an interview, they said, what's the connection here, right? Why does interning at a casting agency or in higher ed, how does that relate to Como 4? And so my advice to all of you, and this is what I would say in each of those interviews, is all of the soft skills that you gain in your shitty jobs or in your internships that may not look like they connect on paper, they're going to connect when you apply for your first job upon graduation, right? Because and I hear this with students sometimes. They're like, well, what does communication do? This is communication, right? When you're making a presentation, some of you might be going into informatics, some of you might be going in engineering, pre-med. Well, you're going to have customers, you're going to have patients. That's all communication, right? Building that trust, building those relationships with everyone that you converse with, that's communication, right? Speaking with your aging parents, speaking with children, if you have children, that's communication. So the skills that you gain in Com 200 and beyond, you're going to carry that onward for the rest of your life, whether you realize it or not. So, is that 2 minutes? Cool.
Thank you, but we have bad news. We got 60 questions.
Oh. Okay, well, I'm going to
All
turn
right,
this microphone
so
off.
how about
Yeah,
this?
let's do it. Speed round.
How about this? This is exactly at 1 hour mark. How about we take 3-minute break? In the meantime, you choose which questions we are able to answer in this short time, right? And we reconvene in 3 minutes. Is that good enough? And then I'll also have the polls after the Q&A session from you and between the panelists. See you in 3 minutes, all right? See you in 1 minute. Hello and welcome back. I'm so glad to have so many questions from you. We got 60 responses, so I had to stop. But we also had 2 minutes enough to receive those questions. So the panelists, including the moderator, will pick some of the common questions and answer them. But at the end, if there were any other pressing questions that you think were not answered, maybe we can see if there's any hand raised at the end, okay? So let us welcome the Q&A round now. So I'll give the microphone back to Troy Bonis.
Thanks, Anise. So we're just doing this real informal style, so bear with us while we troubleshoot our process. Tiana, are you good to take the first one?
Sure. I'm going to go back to. There are so many questions. These are really great questions.
Really great
And I wish I
questions.
had more time to look through all of them. I haven't even gotten through like half. But someone did put my name on one of these, specifically to me. So I guess I'll answer that one first. But the question was, what would you say was the best experience you ever had from your job? No, this is a really great question. I would say I think it'd be from my current job right now at UW. So I work at the Continuum College, as I mentioned, which is the continuing education extension of the University of Washington. So we provide various graduate degree programs and also professional certificates for working professionals. And it's been a fantastic journey. I've been there for about 2.5 years. And I would say my favorite experience has actually been being involved with the professional staff organization, not only because I've built community and met so many passionate folks, but I've actually been able to utilize many of my skills, particularly leadership skills, that I had not been able to utilize in my current role. And one of those ways that actually took shape was through a mentorship program that I created for the staff. It was the first of its kind for BIPOC staff here on campus, and also all staff as well. But specifically, we're supporting BIPOC staff that were underrepresented in management positions. And so on that committee that I joined when I had first started at UW, it was our diversity committee. I helped to apply for a grant, our diversity seed grant, and we actually got the funding to start the project. And so, professional development's a passion of mine, and also mentorship. I think that's super important. I didn't really talk about that aspect when I was sharing a bit of my story, but mentorship and sponsorship, those are two key things that all of you will need to understand, that both work like in tandem with each other for you to, get that promotion, get that next opportunity. But with that mentorship program, I was able to build an entire program from scratch, work with some graduate students here on our campus at the information school, and they built out technology for a mentor facilitation tool that paired BIPOC leaders, executive leaders on our campus, with early career BIPOC staff here at the Tacoma, Bothell, and Seattle campuses. And so it was a small cohort of about 30 folks, but people were able to figure out what their next step was in their careers, kind of get a blueprint from some of the leaders on campus that have been in higher ed, for decades. And so they've seen everything at the UW, and they've come from different institutions, or maybe people in our cohort wanted to pivot to the private sector, and so folks had experience with that. So really, we just paired people with their career interests, and then also those interested in leadership development. But that program finished its first year this last fall of 2024. So that was a huge accomplishment for me. That was the first time I ever built something from scratch like that, and I didn't really know what it entailed, but it was great to actually see it come to fruition, and then also work with the students, and have a little bit of that place-based education. But yeah. And it's called the Professional Staff Mentorship Program now. It's actually on our website if you're interested in looking, PSO Mentorship Program. Yeah. And how about you, maybe?
Yeah, I'm going to bundle some questions because I've been seeing some common themes here. One of the questions was around the challenges with, or what do I foresee with AI-driven comm tools, and then how does that shape future customer engagement? So, at Microsoft, our AI tool is Copilot, and so what we like to say is you are still the pilot. It is just your partner in crime, if you will. So, as I said before, the skills that you develop here are still very crucial. But that is just to help you or enhance your work. So for a great example here, I use it in my day-to-day for writing, but I definitely use it as a starting point. At this point, I can tell if something has been written through ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot or whatever AI tool you want to use, because the LLMs, as much as they are advanced, they're still pretty basic. So they're going to be using very common phrases, and you can start to pick out once you've been in that field for a little bit. So it's still going to need you to refine that and put your voice and tone. And how does that shape customer engagements? Again, you're going to have to be tailoring your pitch to your customer. They're going to know if you're going to try to, pull something over them. And by spitting out just whatever was given to you through the tool, they're most likely going to be uninterested in what you're trying to sell to them. So, know your audience, think about how you're going to tailor that content. There was a great question in here, around, tech in general is predominantly white, a male field. If I've combated any differences within that, yes, tech tends to be more male field, a male field, but I don't think it's predominantly white. I would say my first day at Microsoft, we had this thing called New Employee Orientation, NEO, if you will. And I looked around and I felt like it was the most diverse place I had ever been in. People flew in from Europe, South Africa, India, all for their new employee orientation. And Even to this day, a lot of my work is very global work. So I work a lot with my India team, as well as my team in Singapore. So it's, I would say maybe the challenges were that back then when I first started, I appeared young. That was a challenge. But being able to prove myself through good work, being able to build the confidence to be assertive in the conversation, that helps you have a seat at the table. And then also having an ally, that's super important. I think another great example is I was in a meeting and it was all guys, and there was only another woman and myself, and I found an ally in another peer who was male. And he actually said, I just want to make sure the two ladies were represented. So you just got to find the right people to make that connection with. And again, it's about that relationship. Someone asked what sorority I was in. I was in AD Pi.
Let's see here. There's a question in here around, did you doubt your major since communication as a major is often seen as useless? So I think me answering this question hopefully proves that it's not, since I started in business and ended up going to grad school for communications, specifically because I don't think that it's not useless. It is very, 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 very useful. I think it was Erica who said earlier, the soft skills are no matter what your profession. If you're in the medical field, you're going to have a patient, right? If you're a consultant of some kind, you're going to have different clients. Even if you're a software engineer or UX design, you're going to have an end user that you're designing for and have to communicate with them. Here's your trouble. Let me troubleshoot that. Is this better or not? There are all types of ways that you have to communicate no matter the field that you're in. And communications definitely is the foundation of that. What I learned in grad school and how I applied the learning to my field, the nonprofit, and especially being an executive director, so the leader of an organization, is I took the biggest thing was the frameworks. So in a class right here at UW, you might do a specific assignment, and you're going to do things following your professor, steps 1 through 5 or steps 1 through 10, the exact way that they're teaching you. But there's also a framework that says, here are the principles of this approach. And instead, that's kind of what I took. So it allowed me to apply the framework, the principles of a design, the principles of how to engage with community, and apply that to my specific context. If I'm working, and the thing that I'm working on right now, I have to engage with families at a specific elementary school, and they speak, 8 different languages. How am I setting up an event to make sure that we're appropriately, respectfully, culturally aware, engaging them, making sure we're getting meaningful feedback, relaying that back to them in a meaningful way that they can understand, and make sure then again at the end of the day that has a positive experience, they feel welcomed, and they want to come back. How do I do that, right? So I think all of that is communication. It's written communication on a flyer. Is it translated, right? Is it when they walk in, do they see representation? When they walk in, is there culturally appropriate food? When they're asked questions, is it in ways that they understand and they can respond based on their lived experience? And then when we report back out, is it actually what they said, or is it something I just made up that I want to communicate, right? All of that is communications, but that's just one context, right? Again, if we're talking about designing an app, there's focus groups. Sometimes on the side, I test shoes for Nike, right? They're communicating with me and saying, okay, I have to fill out surveys. Did this fit right? Was there scuffs here? You wore for X amount of hours, so on and so forth. That's also communication. So it is the foundation of everything that we do as humans. And I think even going further to say that you're going to study that and have a lot more technical and scientific expertise, I think just makes you even more valuable.
I just want to also echo that I work with a lot of engineers, and I cannot express enough that communication is not their strong skill set. And we actually do a lot of training on how to speak to an executive or how to give a presentation internally even. And then like the amount of words on slides, the being able to deliver the content, it's hard for them. And so being able to have this, on your resume of like, oh, I have really strong communication skills really sets you apart.
Yeah, I love that. Interpersonal communication, so important, and also conflict resolution. I would say those are the two biggest skills I've used. And also I see people that they get the next opportunity because they've honed those skills in, and so start now. But it looks like, I'm going to combine two questions. Someone had asked, are you confident that this is a career path you want to follow for the rest of your lives? And then another person had asked if I saw myself where I am my freshman year. So I'll start with the first one. Yes, I'm confident about the career path I am on, but I think the advice I would give you all is that the career path's not going to look like anything you thought it was going to be. I had so many plans. Like, I'm very type A, and I had an idea of exactly what I wanted to do. When I graduated, I applied to so many jobs. During the pandemic, kept getting rejections and all the journalism jobs. Actually, one of my friends, told me, hey, you should open up, your sites on other positions that still utilize communication, but maybe not in the way you thought. And so I think that for me actually helped me become more confident in understanding what those other skills were that I held. But I would say I am confident in my career path because I stopped prioritizing the opinions of others and also limitations that people had set on me. I think for me, like even pursuing journalism, there was a stigma, and many for you, like in communication, you might be feeling that this is a very like STEM-focused university. And so many folks are in the path that's going to get them the most lucrative career. And once I actually deprioritize the money-making aspect of a career, that's when I found I was not only more fulfilled, but more confident in what I was putting out because I wasn't just there for a check. I will be entirely honest, my first job out of college, I did not enjoy it. And that was partly why I decided I need to find something else. Ended up in tech. Did not really want to be in that either. And I didn't really enjoy that because I wasn't utilizing the skills that I felt, I had when it came to giving back to the community, uplifting voices that don't often have a platform, particularly in spaces like that. And so I thought, where's a way that I can be innovative? And it seemed like higher ed was going to be that space for me. And so I think that's why I am confident, and the opportunities have kind of unfolded naturally. Like a lot of what I've been able to experience has been by happenstance. And so I think, yeah, that's something that you have to get comfortable with, is like the uncertainty and ambiguity of your career path. And then if I would see myself where I am right now from my freshman year, no, not at all, because I had no idea really what I was going to do with the journalism degree, other than I thought I wanted to go into broadcasting. And so I just had like this one idea of what it looks like. But yeah, I entirely, pivoted, and that's partly what led me to create my podcast. We're like living in a world that's evolving so much digitally, and storytelling has changed. And so I think for many of those folks that are in journalism, you're not going to see, the newspapers, the traditional job as a reporter at the Seattle Times, or, being in the broadcasting. It's going to look more like using our social media platforms, leveraging the digital tools, leveraging AI, and so like thinking about ways that you can get into that. The podcasting, audio storytelling is huge right now. So for those of you interested in that, I don't think UW has a class for that. Is there? There's not a... There is, apparently. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, I would recommend it.
I saw a question on here around who has made a big impact in your career, or who do you contribute, your career success to? For me, I see them in different stages. So for an undergrad, Professor Kathleen Fairbanks, I believe she retired already. She taught the intro course to public relations, and she had a huge impact on me because she was the one who helped introduce different agencies. She would have all those different tours that you can visit, Edelman, Weber Shandwick, different places to get to know actual people working in the workplace. And she also helped us understand, like, what is it like to really have a career in PR. And then after I graduated, I would say one of my former bosses / still a mentor today, Sarah Lobkovich. She owns her own consultancy firm, and she was able to tap into what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, but then what are the opportunities for the future? Because, as Tiana said, your career isn't like one linear path. It's like this weird spaghetti noodle that sometimes loops around and then goes that way. And it really is magical when you find someone who you can go to for advice, but also is able to see the potential in you, and they can see where you could be in, 10 years from now and help you, develop that plan to get there. So, Sarah Lakovich was amazing. Still talk to her today, still bounce around ideas with her. And I highly advise that you find a mentor. Your alumni network is amazing. They want to give time back. They want to buy you lunch, get you coffee with you, tell you about their fun glory days when they were in undergrad, but also help give you advice and help connect you with other people. So strongly recommend that.
I saw a question earlier, it was around school life balance, and I'm going to take this from the work-life balance approach. Essentially just saying it is important to make time for yourself, unrestricted time, or if there's, obviously everyone has hobbies. If you don't, again, this is a safe time to try something new and see what it is. Go outdoors. Touching grass, honestly, is one of the easiest things to do. Right? If you're upstairs in your dorm or whatever, crack your window and just literally smell outside if you can. Like, just take a second. Take a second and breathe. It's stressful times during school. I get that. You want to do your best. You have, pressures at home, or you have these certain expectations of yourself. But it is so important to take some time to decompress. Routines are super important as well. I'm a big person on routine, so when I wake up, the first thing I do, if one of my kids are up, I make sure I change their diapers and I make that bottle because I don't want to hear them crying. But also, I get the coffee going because I know that's going to help me. So those are literally every single day like clockwork. Before a certain time, those things have happened already. When I think about work-life balance, it's probably one of the biggest things I encourage to my staff. We actually just created a new wellness policy. Tomorrow, we have our every other Friday off. And, for a nonprofit, a team of 3 who grassroots and doing all types of things, if we're burnt out, we can't support the community, right? If you're burnt out, you can't learn as best as you can. If you're burnt out, you can't show up for the people that you love, right? There's all types of things. So I think when I saw that question, I think it's huge to do that. I'm just looking at the screen right now, and I see, oh man, there's 2 here. Most important, risk. And then also the military service. I just want to speak on that because my wife is a veteran. Absolutely. Military service, you all are ingrained with project management. Like, it is, I don't want to say, well, I'm just going to say, I don't want to say brainwashed, but you're ingrained with project management. That is what you're trained on. So absolutely, military service is going to help you no matter what field you choose. The other question here is, what is the most important risk you took in your career? That is such a good question. I would say for me, the biggest risk I took was applying for this job. I had never held a leadership role in my life. I had never managed staff. I've never hired anybody. I never fired anybody. I never managed, like I said, multi-million-dollar budgets. I've never done any of that. I've never been the face of an organization. And I was 28 at the time. And I had to trick myself into applying because the imposter syndrome in me said, you're too young. You don't have enough experience. All the memes you see when you look at a job description, it's like, oh, yeah, I could do that. And then at the end, it's like, yeah, we need 20 years of experience for you to apply. Don't believe that part, at least for me in my experience. I can't speak to other people. Okay. But I think that was probably the biggest risk I took because I bet on myself. And I think that's definitely a word of advice for all of you is to bet on yourself. You all are here showing up. Students, again, you can take healthy risks here, try something new, learn something new, and based on all of that, it should help you feel more confident in your next step. But I think that's probably the answer I would give for that question.
Thank you, Ryan, Amanda, and Tiana. Let's give them a round of applause for spending some time with us. Troy had to leave. He had an advising appointment, and that is going to be my plug for advising. So, again, there were 60 questions on this poll everywhere. That's amazing, and unfortunately, we couldn't get to all of them today. But we're going to share our alums' contact information with Dr. Rahman. Dr. Rahman will then pass it on to you all. They have all agreed you are welcome to send them questions if you want to stay in touch with them. At the very least, you are totally welcome to make an appointment on our website for an appointment with either Troy, myself, or our other advisor, Virgil. It's pretty easy to find it. It's under the undergraduate tab. But you know, I have to circle back on the answer of betting on yourself. There was one question that for some reason stuck with me when we were scrolling, and it was, what was your biggest regret while you were a student? And if you say none, you're lying. Mine would be there were times that I wasn't betting on myself. I did not apply for a scholarship, and I'm not saying I didn't need the money. I definitely needed the money. I just thought I will never be, I'm not going to get picked, right? There are so many other students who are better than me, or I'm seeing this panel and I'm hearing all of these success stories. I'm not going to be able to do that. What do I bring to the table? You have a lot to bring to the table. I know I don't know a lot of you, but I already know that you have a lot to bring to the table. You have your own experiences. Bet on yourself. Apply for those scholarships. The worst they can do is say no. When you're in the major, we have over $100,000 in scholarships. Apply, because the worst answer you'll get is no, apply again next year. So bet on yourself. But with that note, our colleague Jillian is going to hand some thank you gifts to our alums. There might be some time for you all to come down onto the floor to introduce yourselves to our alums, but I will pass this on to Dr. Rahman for closing remarks. Tiana's going to share one last thing.
Yeah, just one last brief thing. Don't disqualify yourself before others disqualify you. And also, I work on campus, and so I'm open to get coffee, hop on Zoom calls, hop on a phone call. Like, if you have any general questions about UW, I was also an orientation leader my junior year, so I know a lot about the campus, and I do love really connecting with folks. And so I just want to let you all know that I'm available to meet too. I'm not an advisor, but I can give some advice, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, panelists, as well as Erica, our moderator. But we should also thank Jillian Cobb, who is our Alumni Relation Manager, is now going to give some thank you goodie bags to our guests.